Hi, everyone. I'm Carter Mateer at the Steamboat Institute as a part of the Emerging Leaders Council. And today we are interviewing Chris Coursey. Thank you so much for your time today, Chris. Here at the Steamboat Institute, we're all about inspiring Americans to greatness. A big part of this is learning how to dialogue across political differences we face today. As you know, Chris, there are numerous, and it's been a crazy couple of weeks. But yeah, that's why we're here today. So to start us off, let me give a quick bio on our expert we have today. Chris Coursey is the author of The Joy Switch. He is a professional trainer, skills coach, author, and international speaker. He and his wife, Jen, design and lead the Thrive training program that uses brain-based exercises to train leaders in what experts have identified as the most important relational skills. They are passionate about helping people acquire those skills to make relationship work. Well, Chris, we are so excited to just get your insights on everything we've seen. A big part of the Steamboat Institute is, like I said, doing dialogue across differences. And so to kind of start us off, what inspired you to write this book, and how has it transformed your life?
Well, that's a great question, Carter. You know what? I started out my ministry career 23 years ago, working with a population who's been through like severe trauma, severe abuse. So this was a population that a lot of pastors, counselors, leaders, they just don't quite know how to help. And I was really blessed with this opportunity to help and serve these precious people that were just trying to get on their feet, reach their God-given potential. And at that time, I read a book by a guy named Dr. Jim Wilder. And when I read this book and I eventually heard him speaking, he basically said that our brain runs on joy as the best possible fuel. Joy means we're glad to be together. And when I started to really go down this road of looking at neuroscience and interpersonal neurobiology, it was fascinating, Carter. Like, I learned how our brain works best. And so it explained my life, basically, like joy, when joy was present, when joy was missing, and just how that impacted me personally. But for those that I was helping, honestly, they were a little low on joy, and the pain and the problems were very loud. So that put me on a journey where I would eventually work with some great colleagues who helped me really understand about how we have this relational circuit on the right side of our brain. And it explains everything from politics to recovery to, across the board, where human beings are interacting with other human beings. This is our brain's circuit breaker, and it really sets the tone for how well those interactions are going to go.
No, that's so good. One of the things I like so I have the book right here, The Joy Switch. And one of the things I like you talk about in the book is you talk about the CARS acronym. It's connection, appreciation, rest, and shalom my body. What tips and so out of those things really techniques we can use, what would you say is the top one, or how can we use it, for example, when we're engaging with people who think just completely differently than us? And if it's in, let's say, for example, a political debate, whatever it may be, how can we use those tips to be successful?
Yeah, that's a great question. So here's what we know. When this brain circuit is relationally offline, my friend Jim calls it, we're in enemy mode. In my book, I also call it airplane mode.
Chris, you there?
Hey, everyone. Okay, looks like we lost Chris, so I'll talk to you for a second, Carter, while we wait for him to come back. This happens sometimes. We have technical difficulties. Are you with me, Carter?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay. All right. Sorry, everybody. That is the world of online right now. So we're gonna see if he comes back. And hopefully he is. Oh, it looks like he's ready to join. He's gonna get his screen booted up.
Can I see?
Oh, and we have a kid in the room. Okay, this is the nature of live. Here we go. Here he is. And I'm leave the screen. Wait, let's see. There he is. Okay, and I'm gonna leave.
All right. Sorry. I don't know what happened. So, but that's kind of a good example. Like, that happens relationally when our brain goes offline. Like, we just go dark. And It's very much like a circuit breaker, Carter. So we can be interacting just like how we got disconnected. I'm interacting with you. Suddenly you say something, I say something. If we both go into this non-relational mode, enemy mode, or airplane mode, whatever you want to call it, problems become very big. And you can basically feel when you go relationally dark or when somebody you're interacting with goes relationally dark. So the key is, how do we get back into relational mode? Because when I'm offline, my brain is now amplifying negative emotions. And so if you go offline when we're interacting, your brain's going to be amplifying negative emotions. And at that point, people that you normally would enjoy feel like enemies. And you just feel like you have to win.
Right.
So, the political landscape that we are finding our country in right now is, best I can tell, a lot of people are in enemy mode, where we are just relationally offline and people are just completely missing each other. So while in the book I go through a lot of different solutions, there's one solution that really stands out, Carter, and that solution is appreciation. So whenever my brain can pause, I could take a deep breath and just take a moment to think about what is good. Maybe what I do enjoy about you, even though right now we might be in this disagreement. I can basically pause and go, okay, what do I really like about this guy before I got upset? Or I might think about, what are some good memories that I can just lean into for a few moments? And when your brain can think about the good stuff, we might call it God's gifts or, gratitude, but thinking about the good stuff, your brain responds as though you relive that moment all over again. So quite literally, the feel-good chemicals that were released when you first experienced that moment, those are released just by thinking about it. So if I'm interacting with you and I see that we're slipping into enemy mode, I would pause. I would probably just say, hey, I notice we're getting sharp, or I notice that this isn't going well. What's important to me is to keep relationships bigger than a problem.
Right.
So why don't we just pause and get our relational brain back on again? Or I might say, I can see that you have some strong feelings about this. I see that you care deeply. Like, you're obviously someone who cares deeply about these things. So I would actually try to find things I can enjoy and appreciate about you. Or I would even just think about some of those go-to appreciation moments in me, because the goal would be to get relational again. And so if I could validate, like, wow, I could see you're getting really heated here. Why don't we take a moment? I see you care deeply about these things. Sometimes I've literally been in interactions where I just go like this. I'd say, let's pause. And I've done that before during heated, conversations. And I would stop in the middle of, maybe somebody just blasting me and say, I want to hear what you have to say. I want to stay connected, but I think we need to pause because this is going south. Now, if somebody doesn't respect the pause, then there's probably not a whole lot you're going to be able to do. But I find most people, if you can affirm, hey, I want to stay connected here, but man, we got to pause. I just need a breather, or we need a breather. That's a helpful way to look at it.
Yeah.
You know what? That little pause can actually get the train back on the track so we can go somewhere in a productive dialogue instead of just kind of blasting each other. It's just not helpful or fun.
No, yeah. I mean, that's such a good point. I like how you bring up you kind of call it enemy mode. One thing I'm wondering too with it is, can people use enemy mode to survive their difficult circumstances? And how could it possibly help people to stay in enemy mode, and why is it so hard for them to come out of it if they've been in it for so long?
Carter, that's an excellent question. Enemy mode, part of your relational circuit is your survival circuit. So it's known technically as the amygdala. It's just basically a small part of your brain, but it is responsible for self-preservation. And so part of going into enemy mode means that this survival circuit kicks into gear basically in 1/10 of a second. Your survival circuit can take over. And, that survival circuit is usually good for about 90 seconds. Now, if you haven't solved the problem after 90 seconds, you don't want to stay at that survival circuit anymore. You actually want to get back into your relational sweet spot. So think about it. If I have a bear or lion, coming after me, my survival circuit will say, can I fight this thing? Can I outrun it? And if I can't, then I'm just going to play dead. So 90 seconds is about the time that you want to stay there. You don't want to be there longer than that because it's not a creative part of the brain. So people will normally go into enemy mode because their brain is trying to preserve self, or it's triggered by pain. And when I'm in enemy mode, I am very rigid. I'm blasting, and I'm not able to put myself in your shoes. I'm not able to do all these very important brain functions that would normally be there. So the goal, honestly, is we don't want to visit that place for very long. Now, if you have a threat, then that enemy mode is helpful when you need to get away from a threat. But you don't want to be there very long. So what happens is our brain gets used to doing whatever it does the most. So if I'm used to just going into enemy mode, my brain will just use enemy mode to try to solve problems. And if we're trying to work things out, it's just not going to go well. So I don't want to stay in enemy mode longer than just a short amount. The goal is to recognize, wow, I just fell out of relational mode. I'm noticing I don't feel warm, fuzzy feelings anymore with you. I actually feel like blasting you, or, fighting, fleeing, or just shutting down. So I find it just helps to have a language, Carter, just help people identify it and know what helps when you feel this way. So when we're interacting with people, what helps so that we can shift out of enemy mode? Because basically your relational breaks are present when you're in relational mode, but those relational breaks are out in enemy mode. So the goal is not to be there long. It serves a purpose, which is basically if you touch a hot stove, you go into enemy mode briefly in 1/10 of a second just to move your hand. Otherwise, trying to have relationships with people in enemy mode, it really doesn't work because your brain is basically just trying to win.
Gotcha.
Right.
So, yeah, it sounds like what you're saying is a lot of people are stuck these days in this enemy mode. It's all about winning. And I think we do see that a lot in our politics and when we engage in this dialogue. And I like the advice you gave about taking yourself back to appreciation, something that's super important for us to even engage across differences. Who are the leaders that you think exemplifies this and something that we kind of look up to of being able to really trying to live in the relational circuit? I mean, as we heal our country right now.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, that's exactly the kind of leader that I would strive to be. The leader who can stay relational, a leader who can protect others from themselves. So if I slip into enemy mode, I work very hard to quickly return to relational mode. And a leader who not only stays out of enemy mode, but knows how to be tender with weaknesses, to be a good listener, to be kind and gentle and patient, all of those good things. One of the best examples I've ever seen in my entire life is Jim Wilder. He's a mentor of mine. He's a friend. I've seen Jim in some pretty tough situations where people were in enemy mode with him. They were being mean to him, accusatory to him. And you know what? He stayed relational. He could see people as God sees them from kind of heaven's perspective. So he sees people as more than their malfunctions. He's able to be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. I mean, this guy it's been an example for my brain to go, oh, that's what it looks like to stay in relational mode instead of living in enemy mode. And to be honest with you, I don't see a lot of good examples in our world right now. We're a few courts shy on joy. And, we need more of these kinds of examples, relational leadership. There people can be glad to be together and return to joy when things go wrong. And that's gold. If you can find that in a leader, I'll tell you that is gold, because that example will be so helpful.
I know. Yeah. One of the things you talk about is that example being contagious. Why is it so? Why is joy so contagious, and why is it something that just transforms people's lives and those around you?
You know, at our deepest level, the deepest parts of our brain, which are really about creating our reality, about where we connect, where we attach, where we bond, those deep places in the brain respond well to having our needs met, but even having people who are glad to be with us. In fact, the absence of joy creates some of the worst pain for the brain. Like, we are just not going to handle life well when our joy tank is starting to dry out. Like, we have to fill up that tank. And so when you look at how the brain works, I mean, joy is very much the fuel that keeps that engine running. And we're highly motivated, Carter, to avoid feelings we can't manage. So what joy does is it actually gives us the strength to handle the hard stuff so that we can stay relational and we can stay connected even when things go wrong. And that is contagious because our brain is wired for that joy. So from the moment, even in the womb, actually, we can still hear the sound of mom's voice. So just we bond with the people who meet our needs, and we're going to bond with the people who are glad to be with us from the moment we're born, especially. So we're wired for the good stuff. And so throughout our lives, we are still needing joy, just like we need to be able to breathe. Joy. We need joy for relationships.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That'd be such it's a wonderful idea, right?
Yeah.
We need more joy in our world. And I'm just curious. So you have your Thrive program. What do you see next in your research? Like, we're just going to take you, and how can we use this to transform the world, transform our conversations across differences going forward?
You know, that's really what it's all about, Carter. Like, the reason I wrote the Joy Switch book was really to give people the language and to help them understand that we are going to run best on joy, and trying to get that reality to spread. And usually it'll spread the best relationally. So when I experience joy, I can also pass on some of that good stuff. So where I'm going is basically to help people continue to learn, how do I experience joy, but how do I hold on to it when it's absent? Like, happiness is circumstantial. I'm happy because a new movie's coming out. I'm happy because I have a new phone. Joy is relational. And so you're going to have a healthier family, a stronger community, a better marriage, better friendships, and all of that good stuff when joy is a part of that. So we just have to basically train our brain to maximize joy. And that's really what my wife and I do at our ministry at Thrive Today. We are actually actively training people how to hold on to their joy and how to pass that on. So the future is, I think, full of opportunities to help train people to learn how to hold on to joy when, in the good times as well as the bad times.
For sure. Well, Chris, I want to thank you so much. I got my copy here of the Joy Switch. I highly recommend this for anybody who just wants to engage in these conversations. Being in a hyper polarized time, we need this more than ever. So Chris, thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for your research. It's making a huge impact.
Hey, thank you, Carter. This was awesome. I enjoyed hanging out with you.
Yeah,